Hello, in this video I'm going to be going over the controlled articular rotations, or CARs, morning routine. The idea here is to move every joint in its full range of motion without pain, and trying your best to follow those two rules, which is not moving without pain and trying to only move the joint that you're working on. We're trying to access this workspace. The idea is the more we move it there, or move the joints, we're able to keep our range of motion and send the information that we need to. If you had received treatment and from someone, or in me in particular, this is one thing that I would like you to do as much as possible, especially in those areas that you had chief concerns of. So again, to reiterate, moving the joint as much as possible, only moving in pain-free ranges, and trying your best not to cheat or move other parts of the body. I'm going to go over each of the joints here in particular and some of the faults that may occur. So usually with the morning routine, I start with the neck, so the cervical spine. So we're going to bring, you can just relax your hands, chin down to the chest, rotate, try to brush the collarbone with your chin, extend back, trying to look back over your shoulder, rotate up, looking at the ceiling, up over the other shoulder, down to the collarbone, and back to center. You can return the other way for one whole revolution. Again, here, really trying not to turn the body, hiking the shoulder, or any other extraneous movements with the shoulder itself. Big important one for the neck is not going into pain. So if I hit a certain angle and it starts to hurt, back out a little bit. You can either go reverse to that point, or just kind of use that as a little speed bump and access as much as you can through the motion. The next one we're going to do is the thoracic and lumbar spine. So I like to place my hands on my chest as so, and here I want you to think that your hip is locked in cement. This isn't going to move, so you're only going to move the spine. What tends to happen is once you get down low enough, if you don't have movement, people like to cheat by letting their butt go back, and at that point you're moving at the hip and not the spine anymore. But anyways, we're going to do similar to the same thing we did with the neck. We're going to curl down, so I'm going to curl down, flexion, trying not to move the hip as far down as I can, rotate to the one side, extend back at an angle, trying to reach back, rotate in the center, rotate back towards the other side, and back down, and come back to center, reversing the process. Okay. The next one we're going to be working on are the scapula. So kind of two ways that I usually tell people. You can either start with the hands at the side. In this case, I'm really trying not to let the hands move, so they stay stationary in this line, this side line. From here, I'm going to just hit the four corners of shoulder move, or scapular movement, I should say. So I'm going to shrug up, shrug forward, shrug down, shrug back. And then you can go reverse, back, down, forward, and up. Again, really trying not to let the arms come forward, so everything that's coming is just from the scapula itself. For these next ones, I'm only going to do one limb at a time. So the glenohumeral joint, or the shoulder, we're going to take through its full range. This, like the hip, has a lot of workspace, and we want to get as much of that as possible. So I'm going to start with my hand facing forward. I'm going to flex up. So come up across my chest as far as I can go. As I come up, I'm gonna let the shoulder rotate in, so my palm's facing in, high as I can bring it right next to my head. And then I'm gonna start going back. You're gonna hit a point where you can't go back any further. And at that point, I start rotating the thumb down, continuing to rotate as I just carve out every little bit of space I can. Continue to rotate, extend back, and then continue to rotate. So now the back of my hand is right at my leg. Reversing the process, I'm going to extend straight back, carving out as I rotate, hand facing in front of my chest, and back down. Again, hands facing in or forward. So for this one, really making sure I'm not really hiking the shoulder or twisting my body. And another one, trying to keep the motion in the wrist and the elbow locked out. So all that's moving is my shoulder. Like that. The next one is the elbow. So kind of similar. I'm gonna start out with an extension here in my arm. My elbow is straight. I'm going to rotate down. So palm down as far as I can go. Bend the elbow. Treat this as like a pole that I'm going to rotate over, so the pinky's not moving. I'm going to rotate my forearm around my pinky line. Notice that this creates a natural little offset, so I'm not straight on. I'm right there. Just go to where your arm would naturally go, and then extending to finish. You can reverse. And that's the elbow. Next we have the wrist. So the wrist, I really want to make sure that nothing's happening in my elbow. So the way we kind of explain it, get your favorite beverage, favorite adult beverage maybe, and you're gonna place that on top of your wrist. And we're gonna make it so that I do not let my wrist rotate. So this forearm is not moving, so I shouldn't drop that beverage. So that's there. And I'm gonna ulnar deviate, so move towards my pinky, extend back to the floor, move towards my thumb, and flex up. Reversing the order. So here I really want to make sure I'm not letting the fingers bend as much as you can. Try to keep the palm straight and just go to where your wrist allows. Again, false, letting the wrist turn, pinching, movement in the fingers. You can also try this with the fist. So the next one I'll be working on is the hip. So I use something to hold on to. If you have the availability to do this, I'll go over a couple for this particular movement, but it's kind of similar to what we did in the shoulder. I'm gonna just bring my foot up off the ground just to clear this other leg, rotate my hip so that my foot's coming in, bringing the hip up as high as I can go, out to the side, rotating, bring the foot back towards the wall behind me, and then extending back. You're not going to go as much as you think you would, because at that point it starts becoming a lower back move, and we want to make this all hip. So come back to center, and then reverse the process, extend back, hip out to the side, rotating towards the back, coming up in front, rotating toward the foot is towards the middle, and resting back down. If you're finding this one too hard, you can either do it on your back, doing the same thing. So bring, rotate in, knee to my hip, out to the side, rotate back. Of course, with your back on the floor, you're not gonna be able to extend. A different angle here. Up, rotate in, up, out, rotate back, reverse in the process. You can also do it on quadruped. So I'm gonna come up, come out, rotate. Here you're gonna be able to extend. Again, not going too far where I start using my back. So only going as far as the hip allows. Reversing the process, rotating. And this one we're not gonna be able to do the external rotation where we're bringing the foot towards the center. Stand up again. So continuing on, we're gonna go to the knee. Little bend in my knee. I'm going to try to rotate the lower leg. So this little knob right below the kneecap is your tibial tuberosity. We want to get some rotation in the lower leg, so that should be moving. So a little bend, I'm going to pick a side, rotate. So really trying to bring the bump of your ankle to face forward. Bending the knee, rotate towards the other direction, extend. You can do a couple both ways. Here, really trying not to have it come from the hip, so really watching that I'm not twisting from my hip. Also doing any weird stuff with the ankle as much as you can. I like to keep it nice and at a 90 degree. So really trying just to work the knee. Next one we have is the ankle. So for the ankle, it's kind of the same thing. Really trying to keep it all on the ankle. I'm going to point, invert, so bring the bottom of my foot towards midline, flex up, evert, bring the bottom of my foot towards outside. Couple, as much as you can, trying to watch how you're moving your toes and keeping the rotation out of the leg. So only moving the ankle as much as possible. Lastly, we have the toes. I'm going to pick this one because this one's my good side. So for the toes, I got a couple movements here. I'm going to try to spread my toes in and out. Get some movement through the toes. Once it's been spread, now I'm going to only try to lift the big toe. So the other toe stay on the floor, lifting the big toe. A couple times, really watching that the toe doesn't come in as you try to lift. So only go as much as you can bring it in straight. All the toes are going to come up. We're bringing only the big toe down. All the toes up again, and now piano key the toes. So that's going through the full body. The spine being a different joint than all the other joints. Most of the capacity, like most joints in the body, is going to come usually from rotation. The spine, the limitation capacity is going to be from this flexion extension. So I usually add in my morning routine some segmentation of the spine. We'll start out with just a cat-cow. So just nice and relaxed cat-cow, trying to keep the head neutral, so I'm not doing any extra movements with my neck. And just nice and easy cat-cow. Once you're comfortable with that, the next thing we're working on is the segmentation of the spine. So I'm going to try to do this cat-cow, but only at each individual vertebra, one at a time. So I'm going to walk my hip up. So from a neutral position, so back's flat, I'm going to try to do the cow portion. So belly button towards the floor, but only at like L5. So only from my lower back. And then I'm just going to walk the movement up. Then once I hit that, I'm going to do the opposite. So now going to cat from starting from the bottom. Only moving from the low back. And you usually like to do 2. Walking it up. Back to neutral. So again, this car's morning routine, it's good to just do as soon as you wake up. That's why it's called the morning routine. We're trying to move the whole body, particularly each individual joint, through its entire workspace, through all of its range of motion, without pain and without any compensations or cheating. This is just to elicit the proper force that the body needs to keep the joints healthy. Joints typically will not have blood flow, so the only way it gets blood flow is through movement. This is how we will continue to not only gain access in times where we're healing, but keep everything that we have, especially if we're doing the training that hopefully you will want to do, the kin stretch and this functional range conditioning, which is this joint training to continue to open up the capacity and the resilience in the tissues of the body. If you have any questions, please shoot me an email or post on the video. Have a good day.